The smell of burning corn still haunts me, but not for the reason you'd think. I'm standing in what used to be 40 acres of perfect heritage corn. Now it looks like a war zone, stalks charred and snapped, ground blackened, that acrid stench of gasoline and smoke burning the back of my throat. You ever walk across something that used to be your future, and now it just crunches under your boots? Like broken bones? That's where I was, and the reason? Well, you're not going to believe this, unless you've met my neighbor. See, the security camera footage tells the whole story. There she is, Delilah Thornfield, my illustrious HOA president, prancing through my cornfield at 2 in the morning, swinging a gas can like she's won the lottery, grinning so wide you'd think she'd just solved world hunger. She really believed she was teaching some weekend hobby farmer a lesson, torching what she assumed was a cute little corn maze. Problem is, this garden project of mine was federally insured as a heritage seed preservation program, worth $2.1 million. That's right. Delilah just committed agricultural terrorism on a multi-million-dollar research project. Whoops. So, if you're watching from farm country, go ahead and drop a corn emoji, because I guarantee you'll have opinions on this. But let me back up. My name's Ezra Caldwell. I'm 52, and about 6 months ago, I thought I'd found paradise. My eccentric Uncle Silas left me 47 acres of prime Iowa farmland, the kind of black earth that smells like rain and feels like promise. I'd spent over 2 decades as an agricultural engineer, watching corporate suits turn farming into a spreadsheet war zone. When I finally won a patent lawsuit, I cashed out, enough to tell the suits to shove their quarterly projections and do something that mattered. My wife Nora, who'd had it up to here with suburban book clubs and concrete, leapt at the chance to escape Chicago. Our teenage daughter Iris pretended she hated it. But come on, what kid wouldn't want 47 acres for TikToks without the neighbor's binoculars? Uncle Silas was a legend, a collector of heirloom seeds and, as it turns out, leather-bound journals that smelled like pipe tobacco and wisdom. Buried in his notes were 12 corn varieties: Cherokee Purple Flint, Painted Mountain, Glass Gem, all the stuff you thought vanished when disco died. I called up Dr. Rachel Yamamoto at the University of Iowa. When she heard what we had, you could practically feel her shaking through the phone. These genetics hadn't been seen in labs for a century. So we partnered. The university brought academic muscle. I handled the dirt under fingernails work. Rachel explained something that blew my mind. USDA heritage crop insurance isn't like regular farming coverage. Commodity corn might be $3 a bushel, but rare genetic lines, those get valued for research potential. My annual premium was $3,200, and at first, that felt steep, until I realized what I was actually protecting. And just as I was settling in, here comes Delilah, freshly divorced, straight out of Des Moines, after her husband's insurance fraud conviction made local headlines. She crowned herself president of Millbrook Manor Estates HOA. That's 23 nearly identical houses, stuck like Lego blocks by a developer who disappeared quicker than free beer at a church picnic. She ambushed me at the mailbox in week 1. Cloud of vanilla perfume, voice like a smoke alarm about to snap. Mr. Caldwell, you're surely unaware that agricultural activities significantly impact property values in established communities. I gestured at my rows of corn, dew still sparkling like jewelry. Ma'am, this land's been farmed since 1847. Your subdivision popped up in 2019. She smiled, cold enough to freeze magma. Well, we'll just see about that, won't we? And so began the harassment. Noise complaints about my old John Deere at dawn. Apparently the sound of a tractor is now a threat to civilization. Zoning violations, anonymous EPA tips, accusations of illegal pesticides. Ironically, I run strictly organic. Each time, the county found nothing, thanks to my grandfather clause and university partnership. But Delilah? She just doubled down. Daily patrols. Along the fence, neurotic Pomeranian yapping like a fire alarm, her phone always aimed at my field. I started calling it the Daily Karen Safari. Things got real during July's heat wave. One sunrise, I spotted boot prints in the dirt and 200 stalks wilting, herbicide damage in a suspicious rectangle. I confronted her. She batted her lashes, claimed it was just dandelion overspray. Delilah, Dandelions don't grow in perfect rectangles, I told her. Are you calling me a liar? She snapped. I'm calling you creative. That's when I realized. This wasn't normal busybody stuff. She was genuinely unstable, and it was escalating. In August, she weaponized a brand new township noise ordinance, aimed right at me. She even did acoustic analyses, 40 pages worth, submitted to her cousin Garrett, the compliance officer. He showed up at my door sweating bullets, clipboard trembling. Mr. Caldwell, we've got noise complaints. Fines start at $500 a day. I sipped my coffee and smiled. Garrett, you might want to check Iowa's right to farm statutes before you try finding someone who's been here longer than your grandma. He blinked. Clueless, so I educated him. Iowa law, Chapter 3, Section 152. Grandfathered farms can't be cited for noise by new residential neighbors. My operation predated Millbrook Manor by 72 years. The law was on my side. But here's where it got good. While prepping for legal battle, I discovered her fancy white fence was actually 3 feet over the property line on my land. I had it surveyed. Turns out, she'd been trespassing for 8 months, all while reporting me. Served her the paperwork. She answered in a bathrobe and a green face mask that made her look like a moldy potato. What's this? She hissed. Your fence is on my property. You've got 30 days to move it. Her shriek could have called hogs from 3 counties. Impossible. I had it surveyed. By who? Your cousin Garrett. She flushed, Christmas red and green under that mask. And then, the real bombshell. While I was investigating the fence, I spotted more trampled corn, new boot prints, and security camera footage showing her sneaking in at night, spraying my plants. Next morning, another 200 stalks dead. This time the pattern actually spelled move when you looked from her upstairs window. Subtle, right? I called her out. Found her watering petunias with the intensity of Lady Macbeth. Delilah, we need to talk about your midnight gardening. I have no idea what you're talking about, she squeaked. Security footage says otherwise. Small claims court is looking pretty good. Instead of backing off, she went nuclear, filed a harassment claim with the sheriff, saying I'd threatened her with farm tools. Deputy Tommy Brennan showed up. Good man, local farm boy, not buying her story for a second. I showed him the evidence, the security footage, the survey, the herbicide damage. She's got some nerve, he said, whistling. My advice: document everything. This one's not going to stop. And he was right. That's when the bureaucratic warfare started. Anonymous EPA complaints, OSHA allegations, even claims to the state revenue office that I was hiding unreported farm income. Every complaint meant an inspection, government guys tromping through my fields, measuring, writing, documenting. All a huge waste, except for one thing. Bureaucrats keep records. And electronic records? They're traceable. I filed a FOIA request. Every anonymous complaint came from Delilah's IP address. She'd been fabricating residents, inventing names and stories, borrowing vacant addresses, running a one-woman smear campaign. With all this evidence, I marched to the sheriff's office. Tommy, you want a federal case? Here it is. His eyebrows nearly left his face. Federal agencies don't take kindly to suburban busybodies. But the real twist came during an OSHA inspection when the inspector, a veteran farmer named Carl, looked over my heritage corn and said, "You ever consider applying for federal grants? This stuff's worth gold." He hooked me up with Dr. Susan Shun at the USDA, who got so excited about my corn samples she nearly broke the phone. 2 weeks later, we had preliminary approval for grants that would make my operation bulletproof. All thanks to Delilah's campaign of harassment. Of course, that sent her off the deep end. She stormed the next township board meeting, shrieking about fraud and subsidies in front of 12 neighbors and a sleeping bloodhound. The board, all farmers, just shook their heads. "Ma'am, this is exactly what these programs are for. Ezra's doing important work," said the board president, Jim Morrison. That was that. But Delilah wasn't finished. With her fence exposed and the grant story spreading, she pivoted to legal threats, class action suit for property value destruction, complete with a bogus assessment by her cousin Randy. He claimed my corn farm lowered property values by 23%. Never mind that his credentials were fake. And he'd been barred from assessing real estate in Iowa since a fraud conviction. I hired a real assessor. Their report said heritage farms actually increased local values. Meanwhile, Nora dug through courthouse records and found the real reason for Delilah's paranoia. Her property was contaminated. The previous owner ran an auto shop, dumped chemicals, and skipped the mandatory disclosure. Delilah's dream home was sitting on a toxic time bomb. I requested a township environmental inspection. She freaked, threatened lawsuits, called in yet another cousin posing as a lawyer. The environmental officer, Chuck Kowalski, a Marine who didn't care for drama, found petroleum contamination so bad the house was declared uninhabitable. And the cleanup bill? 80 grand minimum. Delilah tried blaming my chemical farming, which is hilarious because my operation is organic. The township would determine liability with soil dating, but the odds were stacked against her. All this, and her financial house of cards started collapsing. Turned out her property was mortgaged with one of those predatory balloon loans. Payment was about to triple. No bank would refinance. A contaminated property, and the cost of remediation had climbed to 90 grand. She was looking at bankruptcy, foreclosure, and environmental fines, a perfect storm. And desperate people do desperate things. That's when my insurance agent, Maya Patel, called with a bombshell. If your insured crop is destroyed by arson, it's a federal crime, agricultural terrorism. We'd have to bring in the FBI. That changed everything. Delilah's war wasn't just neighbor drama. It was a ticking time bomb. The university had already cataloged our genetics. Millions of dollars in research depended on that harvest. If she destroyed it, it would be like burning the Library of Alexandria and blaming it on bad luck. We went on defense, full lockdown. Cameras, motion sensors, night vision. Genetic backup samples at the university. Tommy coordinated with local law enforcement. Chuck watched for new contamination. Maya briefed us on federal protocols. We became proactive, no more waiting for Delilah's next move. But Delilah was unraveling. The security cameras caught her releasing imported corn borers, illegal pests, in the dead of winter, trying to sabotage my seeds. Joke's on her. Those bugs don't survive Iowa cold, and now she was on the hook for bioterrorism. Then she tried bribing cousin Garrett to file fake violations, but Tommy had him under surveillance. The whole exchange was caught on tape. She didn't stop there. Fake social media profiles, rumors, emails to the university, even staged photos. Digital forensics traced them all back to her devices. But her boldest move was sneaking onto my property at night to dump motor oil near my irrigation system, hoping to frame me for the contamination. Again, caught on camera, flagged by soil monitors. Every step documented for the feds. By March, federal investigators were running a full operation, surveillance, wiretaps, the works. Delilah, now facing foreclosure and criminal charges, recruited her ex-husband and cousin for one last scheme: arson during the annual Agricultural Heritage Festival, when everyone would be out of the house. Gasoline, ignition devices, alibis. The plan was textbook sabotage, but the feds were a step ahead. They intercepted her crew just before midnight. The fire barely touched a few dozen stalks before it was put out. And get this, Delilah had the gall to show up at the festival the next day, sunglasses on, acting like nothing had happened. In front of 500 people, state officials, university researchers, reporters, she grabbed the mic and started accusing me of contaminating the community and defrauding the government. You could hear a pin drop. Dr. Yamamoto calmly stepped forward, explained that my preservation project had recovered. Corn genetics thought extinct, and the federal grants were fully transparent. Agent Shin from the FBI announced the official charges: agricultural terrorism, insurance fraud, environmental tampering, conspiracy. Over $8 million in damages, all told. By the end of the day, the community rallied around me. Farmers, researchers, even the HOA board. The township declared Millbrook County an agricultural heritage center. The environmental investigation confirmed all contamination predated my ownership, and Delilah's attempt to frame me only dug her deeper. She lost everything: her house, her freedom, even her social circle. 6 months later, I stood in that same field, no longer scorched, but alive with heritage corn and a new research center funded by the insurance payout and federal grants. My daughter earned a scholarship to Iowa State. My wife opened a rural library branch for agricultural research. Our operation now supports dozens of jobs and attracts students from across the Midwest. What started as one woman's vendetta became a legacy of preservation, education, and community strength. So, if you've ever had an HOA nightmare, or just believe in fighting for what's right, share your thoughts down below. Have you ever faced down a neighbor like Delilah? Or maybe you learned something about agricultural law you never expected. Smash that like button if you love a little Iowa justice, and subscribe for more stories, because trust me, HOA meltdowns like this are only getting started. Tonight, as the sun sets and a breeze stirs through rows of corn that carry generations of genetic wisdom, I know one thing for sure. Sometimes, justice takes the long way around. But when it finally arrives, it's as sweet as an Iowa summer and twice as satisfying.